Welcome everybody to Ask Mr. Messner about math. I used to have a series on YouTube, Mr. Messner's Math Speaker Series, and I've taken a couple years off. I did it at the beginning of COVID, but we're starting it back up because I'm going to talk to my wife. Welcome in, Leah Mesches, mother of our two children. Human resource director at Effective Spend here in Austin. How are you? Welcome in. Where are you right now?
I am in my office at Effective Spend. It's good to be here. Good to see you during the work day.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
So tell me, what is your official role at Effective Spend? What is Effective Spend? And then what is your job? What's your role? What do you do? And what is Effective Spend?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am officially the talent acquisition manager for Effective Spend. We are a digital marketing company, primarily or headquartered here in Austin, Texas, but we also have an office in LA. So we've got a team of digital marketers, creatives, and analytical people, like people who work on our BI reporting, as well as just kind of internal operations, SEO and PR here in Austin.
Cool. So what is it that they do? What is BI and what's the PR? What's online marketing? What is
Yeah,
that? What's your company really
So,
do?
absolutely. So, I'd say the bread and butter here at the company is really focused on paid ads across channels. So, all those little things that pop up telling you to buy the things that you've been talking about or searching.
So
Um,
Twitter feeds, TikTok
yeah,
feeds,
yeah.
Instagram,
So, yeah, the paid ads that you see on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter,
Google, when you Google
Google,
search stuff.
all of the Google ads, the things that show up at the top of the sheet, the things on the side, yep, the ads that pop up in your email, that is what we do. So yeah, anywhere that you see a paid ad or something that's kind of encouraging you to buy something or use a service, that is what we do.
So companies that want to market their products, mid-size, smaller companies, they go to you and they're like, hey, we need to sell more products. Can you get our name out there? And then you guys do
Yeah.
the analysis and kind of then figure out where to go where kind of thing.
Yeah, so our teams work with all different industries and kinds of companies. I would say kind of like enterprise level and larger. So we work with e-commerce, B2B, B2C, basically across all different industries. So we work with companies that maybe sell products anything from, we do everything, anything from an athleisure wear line through a large home builder. You're as likely to work on a company that's selling water filters as you are to work on a company that has a chain of really cool restaurants.
Cool. So sorry, we just edited some stuff out, but we figured it out. So you hire people. How many people have you hired since you started at Effective Spend?
I've hired about 50 people since the start of 2020.
It's a lot of people. Now, what I really want this conversation to be about is I want you to tell my students, what should they be concerned about? When they go into college, thinking about the next stage, if they've worked all their high school lives getting into a college or kind of figuring out what they wanted to do when they got to college. Now they're in college, the next stage is getting prepared to enter the workforce. What do you look for when you are looking at a college student? How do you reach out to college students? Do college students reach out to you? How do they get their foot in the door? What are the traits that make a desirable collegiate candidate?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess to start, the way people find us, we try to get in on different campuses. So we'll talk to different colleges. I actually try to have some of our people guest lecture or connect with college students. But I'd say beyond that, a lot of times college students do find us. And what we're really looking for is an understanding of what we do and like genuine interest in that, and just looking for those transferable skills. So this company, in particular, everything we do is data backed. So we are not working with influencers or doing brand awareness. Everything we do has to be backed by data, so we can show a client that, you know, the ads we are running are actually getting them conversions or getting them sales or getting them leads. So looking for those transferable skills where you have used data to make an informed decision in your work. So things like class projects, where you can talk about your contribution to a project, how you contributed to the success of a project that would be related to something that we would do. So something where you've used that data, any kind of internships where you've actually gotten hands-on experience that could be transferable. Definitely looking for kind of like leadership skills and that ability to grow into a role. So maybe you wouldn't start in a leadership position, but have you been a leader in any of your different like groups or communities or teams that you've been a part of? Do you like collaborating with a team? Can you talk about that? So oftentimes, if people haven't had a lot of work experience, honestly, being able to talk through your group projects, maybe having some kind of portfolio or something you can point to show what you did in that group, what kind of role you played.
Now, let me stop you for a second. So,
Sure.
not once have I heard you talk about like, oh, we're looking for business majors from the University of Texas with a 3.5 or higher GPA. Like, is there some sort of like cutoff for something? Or are you just looking at every single application that comes in on whatever LinkedIn posting that you have for a job?
Yeah, I would say that the first thing I look for is probably some kind of related major. So something with business or math or, you know, data and some
Have you ever hired like an engineer or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so somebody who has like an analytical background, that's first. Okay, so at least you have the right kind of degree that fits. Okay, then do you look at their GPA? Like, is there a GPA cutoff that you like have them list off or anything?
I would say that the GPA is not particularly important. I think what it does tell us is maybe somebody worked really hard to get the grades that they got. I think at the end of the day, though, the GPA is not what's going to get you hired. It's more the experience that you've had and what you've learned from it.
Okay, so you're looking at probably the degree first, and then you're looking at probably in their resume internships. Have they done any data analysis that pertains to like online marketing? Like, so
Absolutely.
relevant experience. What goes first, your major at your school or your relevant experience like at an internship?
I'd say experience first.
Okay,
and then,
experience
and then
first.
your major. Yeah. So let's say you're an engineering major, but somehow you found your way into marketing internship, right? Like you found your way into marketing, realized one summer, I kind of like this, I dig it, I'm using some of my skills. Yeah, I would say that experience would trump your major.
And let's say like you weren't able to find an internship that's in online marketing, so you don't have the relevant experience, but you got a business major, but you're saying that like projects and like a portfolio that's created where you can say, yo, look at this Excel spreadsheet that I worked on, and just making sure, like, do you guys use calculus at Effective Spend? Like, do you quiz them on derivatives and integrals when you interview these people?
I wish we did, but we do not.
No? Unbelievable. Okay. So it's more just like Microsoft Excel, just like data analysis, presentation, stuff like that. That's kind of what you're looking for. So you look at projects. Do people ever like send in portfolios? Or
Yeah,
when they
absolutely.
list off like their degree, they list off like classes that are relevant, or in a cover letter they talk about that stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So sometimes people will see what we do and they're like, oh, I took this class, and then they'll put the specific project they did. So maybe they got to get hands-on experience, like working with a local company while in college, like through one of their professors' classes, and they'll call that out and they'll say like, yep, I worked for this company, we created a media plan, and here's how it like relates to what you do.
What about like like online certifications, like Google Ads certifications. There's like stuff out there like that, right?
Yep. So I'll say when I'm looking at a resume or I'm looking at a cover letter, I'm looking like, is your experience relatable and applicable, right? So in your internships, like maybe you didn't do exactly what we do, like running paid ads as a company, but there's an interest in marketing, right? Or you've done some data analysis for a company, and then is the interest there? So yeah, how are we seeing interest? Did you go out and do some kind of certification or some kind of online course that's related to what we do? So for us, yes, I see a Google Ads certification or a Facebook Blueprint certification, or that somebody did a course in Google Analytics and really kind of dove in. Yeah, that's showing pretty high intent.
So it sounds like if they're applying to your company, they better do some research about like what exactly you do and what you can do to be prepared for like an interview. This is great. Now, let's say they do all that stuff and they get in the door. What's the interview process look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So, actually, backing up real quick, I would say it's a good advice for any job you're applying for to really dig into the company and figure out, okay, if I haven't done what they do, how has what I've done relate to what they do, and how can I talk about it? Can I frame it in a way that shows them, I know I haven't done this, but look at this project that I did, and here's how I would be able to apply that to what you do.
Or do some research and see, it's like, is there anything I can do before like applying, or right after I apply, say I'm working on this certification, just to show them like you're really interested in it.
100%.
Okay, cool. Now let's talk about the interview process. So they check the boxes. They have either relevant experience or a major that applies where they can show work that is applicable, and they have expressed interest in their company. They've done all the research, so their foot's in the door. Maybe they have a high GPA and that helps them get in there, but maybe they don't, but they have the right, they check the other boxes. Okay, what happens next?
Yeah, absolutely. So at this particular company, we'll reach out and we will schedule an initial call. It's just kind of a chance for us to get to know a little bit more about the person who's applying for the job, trying to understand, do you know what this company does? Do you know what this job is that you're applying for? And then are you able to communicate or articulate how what you've done would be a good fit for what we're looking for? So it's kind of that chance to highlight your skills and experience and give us a chance to learn more about you.
So this is kind of like a phone screen, and you're just kind of getting a sense of people. And do you get to just like pull the plug and be like, this person just doesn't know what they're doing, or this person, like I should have never talked to this person. They might have checked off the boxes, but in reality, they don't know what they're talking about?
Yeah, I would say simplifying it a bit, but yes, if somebody is not able to articulate why what they had on paper is, a reality, or how they've used these skills, or what they did in their internships, or what they even contributed to their class project, then yes, like if they are showing, lower empathy, or they're not able to explain those things, yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So let's say they pass the phone screen. Now, is there any are you sure there's not any math questions that pop up in like a phone screen or anything? Are you sure you don't talk about derivatives or integrals?
Do you think we should?
No, but I was setting up this question because didn't you used to ask 5 mental math questions to see if are they actually capable of doing mental math?
So yeah, here's what I would say. It is not at all about calculus, but it is about your ability to approach a problem that seems difficult,
Cool.
right? So yeah, I would say that in any company, you may be asked kind of like an out-of-the-box question.
What were your out-of-the-box questions? Let's see if the students can do it.
Yeah, for sure. So let's say...
You used to ask these all the time. Do you not remember them?
Of course I remember them.
Oh,
I just
okay,
don't want to
okay,
give our
okay.
exact
All right.
question.
No, why can't you don't want to share your exact questions? You're not allowed to?
Sure. Yeah, I can give an example.
Okay.
So, for example, I might ask somebody, what is 3% of 4 million, right?
Cool. So I would move the decimal place over twice and then multiply that by 3. What would you do, kids? 1% times 3, Okay.
Right. So it's not necessarily, and honestly, when we ask questions like that, it's not so much about the answer, but it's, are you going to sit there and think about it? Do you have a thought process? Will you at least approach something that seems hard? Like, how would you go about it?
Didn't you ask them what's 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 plus 10?
I have asked that.
Yeah, yeah. It's the funny way to do that, kids, is not to just start doing it. It's to do like 1 and 10 is 11. 2 and 9 is 11. And then you just figure out how many 11s you have. And it ends
And
up
I
being
would say-
6 or 5. I don't know. I think it's 5 11s, and it's 55.
I would say you probably don't typically find companies asking you necessarily math questions, but you might get asked like an out of the box question where you think, how would I ever know the answer to this? And I think what they're looking for is that you have the ability to think about it and to explain how you're thinking about
Right.
solving a problem.
Right, and I think we've heard the stories about Google used to like ask you like, oh, if you're in a blender and you're this size, how do you get out? Stuff like that. Okay, so
Right.
like keep your mind open. All right, so they get past the phone screen. What's next? They have another conversation with like the CEO, or what are they expected to do next?
Yeah, on all of our teams, the next step is some kind of assessment, and I think that this is pretty typical in any kind of job or any kind of company. So
like an AP calculus test, that kind of assessment?
something like that. So for us, we actually will do like an analytical assessment in some of our jobs, and we'll do it in real time and give people a set of data. And what we want to know is, how do you look at data, and then how would you explain what you're seeing to a client, right? So it's, how do you approach data? How do you approach a problem? And then what is your ability to explain what you're seeing to another person? Like, can you put that into layman's terms and explain something in a way that makes it easy for somebody to understand?
Really being able to communicate seems to be an important part of all the processes. I'm sure no matter what job you want to apply for, you got to work on communicating and being confident in your communication, confident in your answers and your abilities.
Absolutely. So we're definitely looking, like, have you had like any kind of customer facing experience? How are you treating people? Like, is there empathy in the way that you ask questions and the way that you give your answers, right? So it's not just those hard skills, but absolutely, like good energy, clear communication. That, being, you don't have to be bubbly and enthusiastic, right? But you do have to be able to communicate clearly.
Cool. And then they do well. They answer the questions well. They get hired, and do they hit the ground running, or do they have to do more work still?
After that, we typically have like a formal interview where they're just meeting with people. So that is more a chance to showcase their skill set,
Okay.
to answer more questions, to get their questions answered. But we also hire for some jobs where it might not be like an analytical assessment necessarily, but maybe it's some kind of presentation. So the ability to it's still taking data, but like kind of creating a presentation and like kind of talking about their approach to some kind of project or campaign.
Cool. And then I know like they get hired and they pretty much go straight into like a very intense training process, right? So like then they'd have to do more and learn more, and like the work never stops. Like they just hit the ground running, right?
Yeah, for sure. They will kind of start on client work right away, but yeah, we do have a pretty intense training process. And people in this type of role spend a lot of time in Excel, so you are still using a lot of math skills while you're not talking derivatives. You are, you're definitely comparing data, looking at, month over month or year over year, or, different time periods compared to, where you were at this time last year or this month versus last month. And you do have to kind of understand how to analyze that data and what do you do with that information, right?
Yeah, that's really cool. Now you actually went through the interview process yourself, because you are actually switching jobs, and you're going to be working for Uni, which is the pizza oven company. Can you just talk about that experience and what that interview process was like, and what did you do to nail this job and get this job that you're so excited about?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think kind of going back to some of the things I suggested before, when you first talk to a company, you really want to dive in. So you want to find out what they do, who are their people, what do they care about, right? So really kind of knowing what you're talking about and who you might be talking to before you get into the conversation. I would do that in any interview, especially an entry level one, to show like I actually care about what you do and I'm interested in this job, right? So yeah, I would say the first thing, diving in, like having prepared questions, like knowing what you want to ask, kind of engaging them in that conversation, um, having clear ways that what you've done translates into what they do. So yes, I went through a similar experience, and I went through that initial kind of, phone screen and interview. There was actually a second one after that. And then I was asked to do a presentation. So kind of similar to what I ask people to do. I was
Right.
given a prompt and had to kind of do some analysis and dig into who they are and what they do and like a certain problem that I would solve and be able to present on that, right? So yeah, definitely putting together, an interactive like PowerPoint, being able to talk about what I would do, why I would do it, like what I was basing that on,
Yeah.
giving examples. Um, so I think, with that comes like do the research and then like have confidence in like what you are, what you're presenting and have like a clean and clear presentation as well.
Yeah, it really does sound like it's the exact same thing that you guys do, and it seems like it's probably something that all companies kind of do this sort of process.
I will say I interview a lot of people who are going through a lot of other interviews, because when people are looking to find jobs, they're typically applying to multiple jobs at any given time. And everyone I talk to is having a similar experience in other jobs where they're being asked to either do some kind of real time assessment or test or some kind of presentation. Even, way back when in previous roles I've applied for, I've been asked to take like online tests, like math tests, like, personality assessments, all sorts like reasoning assessments, right? Like I've taken like logic assessments, things like that. So I would say you get hit with all different kinds of things that companies are trying to look for.
Cool. Yeah. Be ready for anything. Expose yourself to a lot. Do your research about what you want to do. Try to get some applicable experience through internships. The GPA could get you in the front door, but really it seems like experience and ability to communicate what you've done seems to be the most important part. Uh, yeah, anything to add?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, so it's not GPA, but it's like how you approach your work, right? Like you could have a great GPA and never try, or you could have this great GPA because you've spent all of your time just trying to get the right grade, but maybe not processing what you've learned and like how it might help you.
Cool. Uh, Great, but you don't have to have the great GPA. You don't need an A in Calculus 1 when in reality you could have just taken the AP credit and then taken more classes that apply to jobs you want to do to create those projects that you can show potential future employers. What's more worth it, an A in Calculus 1 or like a project from a applicable class? Like, I don't know. I would say it's the applicable class and the project, and that may be getting you an internship and then take it from there. But, who am I to say things?
Well, I would say, I mean, I know you, like as a teacher, you spend a lot of time trying to get people to do well on tests, right? But what I would say is like not so focused on like the GPA or the grade or the outcome, but like what are you learning? Like actually trying, like working through your projects, like being engaged, understanding what you are learning.
That way you can communicate it better when you get into your internship or get into an interview. And that seems to be very important. You have to be able to communicate, present your knowledge, not just show that you've gotten good grades on things.
And I'll say this, and I know this is going out on the internet, but I would say in my younger days, I would not say my grades were stellar, but I had a really good way of communicating what I would bring to a team, and I had really great internships, which helped me get, really good jobs.
There you go. And I teach math. Well, thank
And you
you.
are very good at it.
Thank you. I hope my students say the same thing. Thank you very much for your time, Leah, my wife. I love you very much. Do you have anything to ask me?
Yeah. What are you hoping that your students gain from this kind of a conversation?
I think a little bit of perspective on things. Sometimes they're too focused on grades. Sometimes they need to start thinking about that next step. And they got to understand, like, It's not about the GPA. It's not about their college advisor telling them they have to take Calculus 1. It's like, yo, get to important classes based on what you want to do, and then like really dive into that. And yes, explore, learn, be able to communicate, do good projects, go for internships. Those are important. That's kind of what I want them to see, that it's not really about grades, and you're already gotten into your college. Now start thinking about like, what do you want to do next? And what you're going to do next probably doesn't involve Calculus 1. So just like take the credit and run, pretty much.
And I'm going to say this over the years, because before I was in this position, I also hired like college students to work seasonally, right?
Right. We worked in the summer camp.
Yes. So I've hired thousands of people, and I have never once asked anybody about their GPA.
There you go. There you go. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, Leah. I'll see you at home, okay?
Good to see you.
Mwah!